The FDA regulates the production, the distribution, and the sale of baby formula here in the United States. And when I say they tightly regulate it, this is one of the most tightly regulated industries in our entire country. It's not regulated exactly like food. If you're a producer of food, you can break into the market fairly easily. Not so with the baby formula industry. It's very tightly regulated to the point where in the United States, almost exclusively formula that is sold has been manufactured here in the United States. We don't allow very many imports of European formula, for example. It's illegal to sell formula created, manufactured, and produced and sold in Europe. It's illegal to sell that here in the United States. Why? Not because that formula is bad, not because it's dangerous, not because it's unsafe, not because it's unsanitary. It's simply illegal to sell it here due to FDA labeling requirements, meaning sometimes the label is in a different language from, a European country and not in English. And because of that, the FDA doesn't allow it to be even sold. The moms in our country, a lot of moms, by the way, buy European formula. A lot of moms listening to this are shaking their head saying, I know, I do this. And it's through a third-party vendor. It's a way of sneaking European formula into the country. I have friends who do this because European formula has ingredients that are healthier and better than the ingredients in U.S. formula, even though the FDA claims that it's not safe to import European formula because there might be sanitary or ingredient issues. Nutritionally, by the way, European formula is typically better. There's not corn syrup in it like there is in U.S. formula. There's not the other vegetable oils, and there's more lactose in European formula, which mimics breast milk more than U.S. formula does. So it's not only nutritionally fine compared to U.S., it's actually better. So the formula that is imported into the United States, the very little bit of it that is allowed to be imported into the United States it's restricted because it faces a very heavy tax. It faces a 17% import tax. Like, that's enormous. For any kind of good or service coming to our country, 17% import tax is enormous. And by the way, this is not just the Biden administration, knowingly or unknowingly. Even the Trump administration made it difficult to import baby formula from Canada. So this regulatory role that the FDA plays in the production, the manufacturing, and the sale, and the distribution of baby formula, this regulatory role is the lens through which we have to look at this entire industry. So the industry itself is not, as Pete Buttigieg suggests, a free market system. It is essentially a monopoly. It's a monopoly because three big companies, four if you want to count a manufacturing company that is a contract company. They produce the formula if they get orders from other places. But three formula companies, Abbott, Mead Johnson, and Gerber. Gerber is the brand of Nestle. They own most of the market. They own about 90% of the market if you include Perrigo, which is the contract producer of baby formula. And these four companies own the lion's share of the baby formula market. And it's not a situation where an entrepreneur or a business owner can say, okay, well, I want to compete with big bottle, some people call it, with these big companies, these big formula companies. You can't easily do that. And it's almost impossible because the FDA's regulatory structure has made the barrier to entry extremely difficult. And they haven't just made the barrier to entry extremely difficult. They've also made it easy to stay once you've achieved that hurdle. Once you've met the original standards that the FDA has set, then you're good. And I don't mean that in the positive way. I mean, then they don't apply the regulations that the FDA should to the existing players in this formula market. So let's talk about barrier to entry first. So for example, there's a formula called Bobby here in the United States. It's an American company that makes what's called a European style formula. So maybe organic, maybe grass-fed, maybe based on goat's milk, maybe not having high fructose corn syrup in it, maybe trying to mimic breast milk a little bit more. It's more similar to the European style formulas that a lot of moms, especially with preemies or with babies with allergies, prefer. And they were the first baby formula firm to enter this market in the space of 5 years. Think about that for a second. Across the entire United States, nobody competed in the baby formula market. Nobody entered this competition, threw their hat in the ring, started producing something new or innovative or different for 5 years. That's pretty odd if you're talking about a country of over 300 million people with how many businesses and a GDP of how much. I mean, it's pretty crazy. And the reason for this is because you have to invest just millions and millions of dollars of capital into clearing the hurdles set by the FDA. Congress is also to blame for this, by the way, because they set standards in the Infant Formula Act of 1980 that, well, are extremely difficult to clear. We're talking about nutritional requirements. We're talking about all kinds of tests that need to be run. It's very difficult to break into the market. And if you're like Bobby, by the way, is the formula company. This is ironic that we're talking about them the next week, because Bobby's the formula company. This is tangential, by the way. Bobby's the formula company that I mentioned last week when I was talking about Roe v. Wade and how a baby formula company was actually supporting abortion. They were decrying the Supreme Court opinion, the leak of the opinion that showed the Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade. And I said, well, that's odd, because the customer of this formula company is infants, and yet they're also advocating that you should be legally allowed to kill your baby. Odd. It's the same company. Coincidental. Okay, so Bobby, though, is a contract firm, meaning that they contract a manufacturer to produce their product. And there is just one contract manufacturer of baby formula in the entire United States. It's Perrigo Nutritionals, who I mentioned a moment ago. And it's not like you can just be a boutique and put in an order for a small amount with this manufacturer. No, they actually require a very large initial order in order to even do business with them. So there's one option if you want to be a contract producer of baby formula, and you have to have an initially large order to put in with Perrigo Nutritionals. So, I mean, talk about a high barrier of entry. Not only the FDA regulations, but also you just don't have options if you don't have your own manufacturing. If you don't have your own manufacturing facility. And there's been only one, by the way. There's been only one company that has built their own manufacturing facility of baby formula, a new one, in the last 15 years. A new company has actually built their own manufacturing facility. So as you can see, it's nearly impossible to break into this industry. Very hard to enter, but very easy to stay. Easy to stay thanks to the FDA, and easy to stay not in the good way.